Steve and I were driving around in a pickup truck one day, and Steve had this idea to take a Mr. Coffee machine and turn it into what he thought would be basically a Mr. Still, where every homeowner could distill a little bit of liquor for themselves, their own home use. The problem is that distilling at home is illegal. So once we found out that distilling at home was illegal, the seed of the idea still really captured our attention. And we found that it's a huge industry. It's a $25 billion industry. That's just liquor. That does not include beer and wine sales. Dominated by 7 or 8 players. And so we then started the research necessary to begin to build and start a micro distillery.
After you open your doors and you start selling your product, I think you have the tendency to feel that things are really going to fly out of here. In the very beginning, we all would work on the bottling line, and I'd be there and, $10, $10, $10, all these bottles were going to sell through, and it doesn't happen that way.
Well, after we opened our doors, for me, it had been this long, hard path, this really excruciating process of developing the products and building the plant, and for me, I felt like, okay, now I can finally sit down and take this big, long, deep breath. And then, of course, all of a sudden, what confronts you is the reality that now you actually have to sell the product. I mean, here we had this world-class plant and these great products that everybody was loving the packaging on, and now we actually had to get money for all this.
I think one of the things that we did learn here is that we were so small that we were very insignificant to a lot of the people that we were doing business with, and we kind of kept being shuffled aside.
A company like Vermont Distillers has to take terms of anywhere from 60 to 90 days, and even then, we can get jerked around quite a bit in terms of getting the check. So what Steve and I had to do in order to improve the cash flow and really keep the company healthy was to go back and really understand the motivation of the distributors, of the people who we were initially selling our product to. And what we realized is, since we were in the premium end of the market, we had margins that other people did not have, and it really behooved us to share some of that margin with our distributors as an incentive for them to deal with our product in a truly responsible way, and in a way that made us all money. So I think for any business, what you have to do is sit down and really understand the channels of sales, channels of distribution, and people's motivations. Early on, cash flow is extremely important to keep a very tight focus on. Understanding how the money comes in, how it goes out, when it's supposed to be here, and really looking at it on almost a daily basis can literally mean the survival of your business. Because it tells you, it allows you to predict when you're going to need more financing. And I think as an entrepreneur, you think that sales are going to increase significantly on a very short time period, and you also think that if you need money, it will be forthcoming very quickly. And generally, neither of those two things are true.
Boy, that looks really clear, Brian.
In every business, you necessarily start with a limited amount of capital, and how you spend that is crucial to the business. The tendency, I think, is generally to spend it on equipment and on product because you become very product focused. You think you've got the greatest product and people are going to love it, and almost like it's going to sell itself. And so I think where you naturally tend to is you don't have the kind of marketing dollars, or you don't end up with the kind of marketing dollars that you really need and should have, and you should have twice as much as you ever think you're going to need.
I'm always amazed in visiting other businesses where you'd go and you'd open the closet to hang up your coat, and there'd be all the brochures. Well, they had the money to print the brochures, but here they are stacked in the closet. They didn't have the money to get them out. Or they had the money to produce a very specific piece of advertising, which maybe cost thousands of dollars, but they didn't have the money to get it into the papers. And I think the follow through with your dollars is very, very key, and to plan really what it is that you're going to need, and then be able to execute what you've planned is really the key here.
You realize you really have to have this incredible vision of where you're going and what you're trying to do in order to maintain yourself through this process. Because what you end up with is always something less than what you dreamed it could be.